Welcome to the Borgen podcast, the only English language podcast about fictional Danish politics. On our show, we explore the people, events, and parties that make up the fictional Danish parliament on Borgen. I'm one of your hosts, Amy, coming to you from Istanbul, Turkey, still. And I am, as always, joined by my good friend and co-host, Chantal, who broadcasts from her room with a fabulous view in Toronto, Canada. And this is actually a bonus episode, everybody. We're going to be off topic. This particular episode that we're recording right now isn't even really going to focus on Borgen. It's going to focus on the events surrounding women's accomplishments in the summer of 2023, because there are a lot of them. We have the Barbie movie, which is now Warner Brothers' biggest grossing film of all time. And that makes Greta Gerwig the highest grossing director for that studio of all time. It doesn't matter what the gender is there. We have the Women's World Cup, which was attracting more audiences on TV and in the stadiums than ever before. We have Taylor Swift and Beyonce on tour. And we have also a little bit of news about politics, but Canadian politics, the stuff that happened in Canada this summer with Pierre Trudeau. Oh my God. Not Pierre Trudeau.
Not Pierre, his son, Justin.
His son, Justin. Pierre Trudeau hasn't had marital problems since the 70s. And he's also dead. So, so we can discuss.
And he's also
Justin Trudeau's
father, and Pierre Trudeau was an ex-prime minister in Canada.
Ex-prime minister, yes, former prime minister.
That's right.
So, let's get to it, shall we?
Yeah.
So I am going to start with talking about the Barbie movie, because I went and saw this twice this summer. And in addition to getting embroiled in the comments section, never scroll down to Troll Town. I mean, let's talk about the premise of the film first. I mean, it is basically a musical comedy with a very heartwarming and lovely message about finding one's self and one's purpose. And yes, it's got Feminism 101 in it. The contrast between Barbie Land, where the Barbies, the women, dominate the culture, society, and economics and political structure of that society, is a mirror reflection, or it's meant to be a mirror reflection of the quote unquote real world, where the, society structures of power and economy and everything else are dominated by men. And the overreaction, ridiculous reaction of some certain types of male people to this movie and its messages has just been extremely revealing. And frankly, for the men who are making comments about this film that are so off topic and so ridiculous, embarrassing for them. It is just shameful the way some big man babies have been crying into their brewski beers about how this movie is just nonsense, and that incredible and accurate and perfect speech by America Ferrera has been cut up by them. Oh, women don't experience life like that. That's not what it's like for women. It's like, my dude, when is the last time you walked out into the world, presented yourself as a female presenting person? Have you ever gone out looking like a woman? Have you ever encountered environments as a woman? If the answer is no, shut up. You know nothing.
Yeah.
And I just that film was completely unexpected. It is not at all what I expected.
Yeah.
You also saw it, right? What did you think about it?
I saw it. I mean, I didn't grow up playing with Barbie dolls. I was always more of a, remote control cars, and I never grew up playing house. I liked Gem and the Holograms a lot when I was
Yeah.
growing up. I am born in 1979. Gem and Holograms came out. I think it was 85 to 88 or something like that.
Yeah.
But
I
never
have like
I,
3 of those dolls and
oh,
the
have you?
car. Yes, I still have the car.
Well, I've actually been to the GEM convention a few times, which is on right now as we record. And after a recording, I'm going to pop in on the virtual chat room or the virtual recordings and check out the GEM convention. But anyways, my sister played with Barbies, but it was never something I gravitated towards. And when I saw they were making the movie, I was just like, I kind of rolled my eyes like, oh, okay. And then when it came out, I was like, oh, I'm just going to wait till it comes out on streaming. And then I said to myself, I was reading about it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds like not what I think it is. This sounds like a really powerful message and I need to see it.
Same. That's exactly
like 2 weeks or 1 week after it came out, my sister and I went to see it.
Same. That's exactly what happened to me. Like when I started hearing reports back that like conservative American men were getting really upset. And like I saw a couple memes in this film group that I'm in. I think you're in it too.
Yeah.
About like someone pulled all the like homophobic and nasty reviews about that film and like made like a poster for Barbie with all of these like negative reviews, and they were just, it was hilarious. Like they won't stop until they turn us all gay, and like this piece of pink feminist trash. And I'm like, oh, it sounds perfect. I totally have to go see this movie. Yeah. And then like it was like even the opening scene, that like homage to Stanley Kubrick. I mean, Greta Gerwig is a fantastic director. Let's just talk about that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Lady Bird, Frances Ha,
Little Women.
Oh my God, Little Women. Yeah. She's worked with Saoirse Ronan a few times. This accomplishment, like, and that's just, I think that's 40. Just a handful. Yeah, and she just turned 40.
Just turned 40, yeah.
And like has done all of these incredible things, and like her films and her point of view. Frances Ha is a fantastic movie. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen it.
She's stars in it actually. And I believe Noah Baumbach was the director, but that's her partner in real life. This is another funny thing that none of these angry little men babies have said, is that Noah Baumbach co-wrote the script with Greta Gerwig. Like they wrote the script together and she directed it solo. So like a man had some input about this. So why is everybody getting their panties in a twist? It's so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. And if my comments here attract haters, fine. Go ahead and hate me for it. I couldn't care less, honey kitten.
Same.
I just like, I'm so over these dudes. And like, it's really interesting as I kept reading comments on the Barbie movie and on the women's football in particular, how easy some certain men find it to say nasty, rude, ignorant, derogatory, negative, mean-spirited, sexist, hateful,
harassing comments.
Yeah, thoughtless comments. Well, I guess a lot of thought goes into them. And that they're willing, because it's because of the glorious anonymity of the internet, these men are willing to say these things.
Floodgates, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? It has actually, how this has affected me. It makes me not want to talk to men I don't know, because what if they turn out to be one of these guys? Like, as if these people, these dudes, could not say these things, for example, at like a house party or a get together somewhere, or a staff meeting or a staff party somewhere. Can you imagine in a professional setting, just standing back and being like, well, I thought it was a feminist piece of trash and that like, it'll just fail and nobody will ever watch this movie more than once and it makes no sense. And that's just, I mean, those are just the like misogynistic comments. I'm not even going to address the like QAnon nut bar aluminum hat people who think that this is a grooming movie. And I'm like, the only grooming that was done was on Ryan Gosling's chest, okay? And that's perfectly acceptable.
Well,
and maybe on the horses. My favorite line in the whole film was the when Ken says, once I figured out the patriarchy didn't have anything to do with horses, I lost interest. He's so good. He's so good in this role. It is so funny. It is so wonderful.
I'll tell you a tweet that I saw. So this was reposted so many times. It's by someone called @PaytMitch, Paytmitch. And she posted, the Barbie movie was good, but what's better is seeing men squirm because they can't handle seeing fictional men being treated like women.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will say, I was watching an interview recently about Tracy Ellis Ross, who is Diana Ross's daughter, who is over 40, and she speaks out about being single, and she calls herself choicefully single, just like I call myself choicefully single as well. I'm not going to go to the person that is not going to challenge me and be what I want them to naturally be. She says that as little girls, we grow up reading fairy tale books that make us dream of being chosen, waiting to be chosen. And the second thing is, as little girls, oftentimes little girls are raised to dream about a wedding, the fairy tale and the theatrics of a wedding. And what is that it's not that at all. So Ken likes her and is into her and wants to impress her and be the number one Ken in her eyes. And she's like, okay, well, thank you. Thank you for your attention. Or, I like your company too, but I'm busy.
Good job, Ken.
I'm busy over here with my girls. We have our own thing going on. The woman is not dropping what she's doing to serve the man, right? Or to
exactly.
His needs, and to wait till he signals to her that, oh, it's ready. I like you. So come on, let's go. Leave your girls behind, leave your house behind, do whatever. So I thought that was so powerful.
Yeah, exactly. And the creator of Barbie, Ruth Handler, who, has like, I listen, American Hysteria, which is one of the podcasts I really like listening to, that explores like all kinds of like wacky urban legends and stuff. The host is Chelsea Weber-Smith. They're great. The show is great. I love it. It's part of the podcast group that involves like the Sarah Marshall people. So like You Are Good, You're Wrong About, American Hysteria. They're all kind of like together in a little group. And all of those podcasts are excellent podcasts, by the way, like professional and like not like ours.
Not like ours.
Not like with real production and like real editing and stuff. And they're like
staff, not just us doing everything behind.
They started like this, and now, but there's like a producer and like, editors and stuff. So it's like very well done and very excellent. And American Hysteria just recently had a whole show with a Barbie historian.
Oh, really?
And the whole point of Barbie lore. So Ruth Handler developed Barbie specifically not to be married. She is a model and she has careers. Okay. And what's really interesting is Ken was never supposed to be her boyfriend. He's always just an accessory. He's like a background player. Like he's also a model, I guess. Like his job is beach. Yeah. And I spent the whole summer saying that. I think I might end up saying it in a staff meeting if I'm not careful. Oh, can you do this extra thing for these kids? But my job is beach. I'm going to get in so much trouble. Anyway, so like the whole point is that like she has all of these other things going on in her life. Barbie can be anything she wants.
Yeah.
And like, yes, okay, there were ideas about like body image problems and like the standards,
white presenting.
Yeah. The first Black Barbie was produced in the 60s, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Very early, like 1962 or I think. I think, or something like that, in the 60s for sure. I forget the exact year.
Mhm.
And Barbie, actually, the Barbie Dream House was first produced also in the 1960s, I think around 1964, 1965, a full 10 years before real women in real life could own their own house and get their own mortgage without
And
their
get their
husband
own
co-signing
job,
for them.
right?
Yeah. Women couldn't even have a credit card with their own name on it in America until 1974.
Wow.
I was born in 1975. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Excuse my French, but it is. Like, it's ridiculous. So Barbie was an astronaut before, like, what, 35 years before there was a female astronaut?
Yeah.
Like, Barbie was a groundbreaker, actually.
That's
And
the thing. Go ahead.
I never thought about that in those terms until I listened to this historian talk about, like, Barbie's origin stories.
But that's what I was gonna say. Like, I never knew the sort of breadth of Barbie's personas until my sister pointed it out, because she knows more about Barbie than I do. And she's like,
Yeah.
you know, Barbie could be anything. She's a pilot, she's a construction worker, she's an executive, she's a librarian. And I'm like, really? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. And I think the brilliance of this film is to take this iconic doll that has spanned generations of women and very simply say this is a Barbie movie, but to flip the script and to have these powerful, truthful messages.
Yeah.
It was mind-blowing.
It was mind-blowing. It was genius. Mark
Yeah.
Maron, who also hosts a podcast, a very famous podcast called WTF, which goes in-depth interviews, also professional, like, and he's a comedian,
You're
a
a
very
big fan.
funny, big fan. I'm a big Mark Maron fan. He actually made a statement after seeing the film. He's like, I wasn't going to see the film. I was like, whatever about it. He's called it a masterpiece.
Mhm.
And said that if all of these guys who can't handle the message, this film that very brilliantly and in a funny way expresses basic feminist ideologies, basic feminism, he said, which it is. It's not like it's not a thesis, then, those dudes, I believe this is exactly what he said. Those guys need to look in their pants and figure out what they're made of.
And
I'm like,
they're a bunch of babies too.
Bunch of babies, and it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
He also called it embarrassing. And he's so right on about that. And it was so nice to hear, like, a famous white guy say that,
Yeah.
and to have, like, the way, and people just attacking this movie, like, and like, Greta Gerwig is a shit director, and like, this movie will never make any money. Well, I guess it did. Like, over $1 billion worldwide, like,
And counting.
piss off. Yeah. And you're right. And such a, like, heartwarming way. And like, the speeches, the writing in it is so good. Like, the Nobel, or the one who's a lawyer, the Barbie who's a lawyer, and she's like, I can have emotions and logic, and that doesn't diminish me. It enhances me.
Yeah.
And I was like, bingo, there you go. And like, all these men crying and yelling, and like, women are so emotional. Women freak out about everything. It's like, well, who's freaking out now, buddy?
Yeah.
You're the one being illogical and irrational right now.
But who can't hold on to their emotions except to explode it all over anonymously on the internet, right?
Yeah.
The other scene I really liked is when Barbie comes into the real world and she's sitting on the park bench and she meets an older woman.
Yeah.
And she has that moment. And I think as we get older, we often become overlooked. I'm over 40, you're over 40.
Oh, yeah.
As we get into 50s and 60s, we look around, we become more invisible in terms of film, TV, advertising, media, and voices. Okay. And to have this moment with this older woman on the park bench, Barbie didn't dismiss her. Barbie didn't say, oh, there's an old woman who has nothing to say, no value. She looked at the woman genuinely and warmly and was, observing what she was doing. I think she was reading a newspaper, and she said, with all truth and honesty, you're beautiful.
Yeah. And the women
are meant to do that, right?
And what was the answer? I know it.
Yeah.
And that scene almost made me cry.
Yeah.
because I'm almost 50. I'm 47. I'm going to be 48 in like a couple of months.
Yep.
And, that's like, as far as like traditional beauty standards and everything go, I mean, obviously, of course, I'm beautiful and perfect. Of course. But I mean, generally, people don't see women my age as being beautiful and perfect. Mm-hmm. And it has like, I live in Istanbul, which is a young city. Okay. Like, I think the average age of inhabitants here is like late 20s, early 30s, I think. And there's a lot of people here. There's like a lot of people live in Istanbul. There's a lot of young people. There's a lot of fashionable people. There's a lot of people all over. There's a lot of dudes. There's a lot of dudes who like women who look like me because I have light colored hair and I'm like Western looking and different than like the average population. I guess, mind you, I think Turkish women are like gorgeous and wonderful.
I think so too. Yeah.
And like our friend, we have a mutual friend who's Turkish that we met in Toronto who doesn't age.
I know. Amy. Okay. So everyone, all right, this is a sidebar. So at like 1 a.m. or something, I was looking at my Instagram and I saw this, our mutual friend. And I was just like, my breath stopped. I'm like, how does this woman look so beautiful 20 years later?
Yeah.
We're always in awe of her.
I know. It's the Mediterranean diet.
No, you were saying it's because she lives in the seaside.
Yeah, it's the beach life. My job is beach.
My job is beach. Exactly.
So, but yeah, and people here are very warm and very accepting, and like generally, mostly there are some societal issues related to politics happening here, like everywhere. But when you make friends with Turkish people who are of your ilk, they're your friends.
Yeah, and loyal and family. Like right from the start, they accept you and make you feel like you're one of them.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Very warm culture.
Yeah, but I have noticed, when I first got here, I was 36 and like I was really fit because I had been like a bicycle commuter and swimming all the time and doing sports all the time. And I was like, probably in the best shape of my life when I first arrived here. And like, I look good. Okay. Like really good. Okay. And, people noticed I got a lot of male attention. And as I've gotten a bit older, the attention I'm getting is different now. And it's just different. Dudes still look at me. Of course they do. But I mean, you know who else looks at me? Women my age look at me.
Yeah.
We see each other more. Like I'm starting to also pay attention, and it's not a sexual thing. It's not like, oh, she's hot. It's like, what's her story? Who is that woman? Yeah. Where's she going?
What's she doing here? Yeah.
Where did she get that fabulous coat? You know?
Yeah.
And like, it's just my attention is shifting as well. And I think that's a good thing. It's very freeing, actually. I don't mind not having street attention on me as much as I used to. It's kind of a relief. It still happens from time to time, but
I always say, like, if I'm getting dressed up, and when I say dressed up, I mean like I'm going to an event or it's Halloween and I'm dressed up in like big fashion hair and makeup and, nice fitted clothes or whatever to accentuate my body in the parts I want accentuated.
Yeah.
I always say the best reception is from women. Yeah. I want to impress women. Well, I am
especially you want to.
I am the LGBT community, so I always want to impress women. But that aside, to me, when a compliment comes from a woman, even a straight woman, it's the most meaningful to me because I know it's not one of, I want to hide behind the bushes and jump out and attack you. It's
not opportunistic.
No, it's safe, truthful affirmation of, hey, you look really great in that color, or that makeup really brings out your eyes, or whatever it is. It's genuine. I don't have to be scared that someone is going to, as you say, it's not opportunistic.
Yeah. And I know I was just kind of joking around and saying like, of course I'm good looking and stuff. I don't always think that about myself. Of course, just like every human probably.
Of course, we all have, things that we're insecure about. But I also want to say, as we always say in these episodes, that we're not talking about all men, okay?
Like, of course not.
There is, both Amy and I.
Hashtag not all men.
Hashtag not all men is like the, sort of set, what we set in each of our episodes. It's not all men. We know that. And we know we have a lot of male listeners that we really value and appreciate, but also
Yeah, and half my friends are dudes.
Exactly. I was just going to say, in real lives, Amy and I have wonderful friendships with men who are like our brothers.
Yeah.
And they're very important to us, and they get it, and they're on the right side of feminism. And I also think watching Barbie that it's really frustrating for men like that who get it, who stand up for their women, their daughters, their cousins, their mothers, their sisters. It's frustrating for them because their voice gets eclipsed by this rampage of hatred and misogyny.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with you. And like, I went to see Barbie twice. I went on my own here in Istanbul. It was super hot. I got an air conditioner installed this summer finally. But before that came, I went to the movies a few times just for the AC.
And the frozen food section in the grocery store.
Yeah, I went and hung out in the frozen food section in the big market in the mall. Yeah, exactly. Big supermarket. I know all their inventory. So it was really funny. But I went and saw it by myself. And then a few weeks later, I went down to Izmir area, like on the Aegean Sea. And I stayed with one of my brother friends, a really, really good friend of mine. Hi, you know who you are. And I love you. And we had such a great time together. And he's a guy who has spent a lot of time working on understanding himself and understanding how he carries and presents himself in the world, and is trying to be a better person and a better man and a better friend and a better boyfriend, all the things. Excellent. He's really invested in it. And I'm like, you got to go see Barbie. We got to go see Barbie together. And I made him go. And he came out of Barbie saying, I'm Knuff. And I was like, yes, you are. And he like got it. Like he got it. And this is a Turkish dude. And he's lived in America for some different periods of time in California and in Pennsylvania. And really kind of got it, and like really tries very hard to understand women and our perspectives. And for that reason, it was easy for us to hang out together and like get along. And then, you know, part of the reason he's like this is because he has a fantastic mom as well. And we went to their summer house where she lives full time. It's a winterized summer house kind of. And she's a retired finance person. She worked in banks all her life. She's twice divorced and like super independent, super fierce, just swims every day. She's like in her 70s and she swims every day, and she's awesome. Like fit and so awesome. And so it's like, of course her son is going to be a decent person, you know? So it's like friends like this. And, you know, I have other guy friends who have very independent women in their lives, or like support the women in their lives fully without making it about them, without pandering to the women in their lives, without like
feeling insecure. And that's one thing I read today, that, you know, it's all these mediocre men that, you know, they speak out against it. And one of my good friends who actually lives in Australia and went to 2 World Cup games.
Awesome. Oh, I'm so jealous.
You know who that is? My soul sister. Okay. Hello. Yeah. She's going to be listening to this recording at some point, but she's a straight woman, black straight woman. And she always says, you know, Chantal, people have a problem with 2 women in a relationship, because what it means is though they don't need men for anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's what men get all caught up in when they see Barbie. It's just like, well, if Barbie doesn't want Ken right now, then, you know, she's being defiant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she should be, when the man is ready, you should be, because it's breaking down the systems. And the other thing she said is, and maybe you feel this way as well, one of the reasons why a lot of straight women love to hang around gay men and the gay community. First of all, you've been to lesbian bars with me, or you've been to that drag bar where there was gay women, right?
Yep.
And we were there to watch a show, but there was a lot of women around. And if a woman liked you, let's say, the way, and you know, I've also experienced this going to lesbian bars, the way a woman would hit on me is so different than the way a man would hit on me.
Oh, it's so much nicer. It's so much more flattering.
Nicer. And I also think women get it. We don't want to make other women feel scared.
Yeah. And
or
yeah, or cornered. Yeah. And you know how that happens? Because when a gay woman hits on me and I'm like, I really appreciate the thought, but like, I'm straight, but I'm here with a friend,
yeah,
and yeah. And, it's like, and I've had a couple women be like, are you sure? If you change your mind, you call me, and that's kind of cute and funny. And it doesn't come off as creepy. And I've had other women go, oh, okay, well, enjoy your night. And it's just, they don't push their luck.
They don't push it, and they don't say, well, if you had a man, you'd think differently, or I'm the man to change you, or come on, baby.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like that. It's not aggressive. And part of what I want to say is that straight women, through my Australian friend, through her lens, says straight women feel so much more comfortable and safe around gay men.
Of course.
Because gay men are not trying, there's no ulterior motive with gay men. And secondly, for the gay men that I've grown up with, like for the past 20 years and meeting gay men constantly, right?
Yeah.
Is that they're not threatened by my feminism.
Yeah, they're so not threatened by
How
it.
many gay men are the biggest fans of all these like pop queens everywhere? And
Taylor Swift
and Beyonce. So is that our segue into them?
Yeah, we can talk about them. And isn't Pink on tour as well this summer?
Pink is on tour this summer, and she's got Brandy Carlisle hanging around her. Pink was in Toronto, and that was a few days after the announcement that Sinead O'Connor had passed. And
Brandy, I want to talk about Sinead too.
Came out. Okay, we can talk about Sinead. Brandy Carlisle came out on stage for one of Pink's songs, and they sang, well, Pink finished her song and then they sang Nothing Compares to You. And it was just, tear evoking. It was so beautiful.
Oh, totally.
So,
I will talk about women's football first. And then I'll talk a little bit about, I'll talk about the concerts and then maybe about Sinead and then end on football. Cause we've touched on all of them. I'm just trying to organize my thoughts.
And Trudeau, we need to bring Trudeau in too. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but you're going to be talking more about that because you've been following that story more than I have.
So next, Amy, what do you want to talk about?
Taylor Swift at the tours. So I read a little piece of information. I can't even remember where it was, like in The Economist or The Guardian or something, that Taylor Swift's ticket sales have prevented America, the US, from sliding into a recession this summer.
No doubt.
No doubt. And Beyonce as well. Like the economy around these tours is enormous.
Yeah, and it's thriving. There's sold out stadiums, people traveling to different cities to see shows, staying in hotels, spending money, eating, and in tourism and drinking, and it boosted the economies all over the place, including Canada. I mean, I like to remind listeners, Amy and I are Canadian nationals. We are not American. Yes, we speak English, but that doesn't mean we're American.
Yeah.
in the city I live in Toronto, you had these powerhouse women like Pink, and we're talking about Taylor Swift and Beyonce here. It boosted the economy. These were sold out stadium shows that many of my friends went to. They're spending money.
Yeah, of course. And, not nothing either. And, it's so great to see the economic benefits of products made by women and largely for a female audience. Not entirely, of course. Anybody can enjoy Taylor Swift music.
Exactly.
Anybody can enjoy.
A lot of dads that took their kids, I was reading,
Yeah, I know quite a few dudes who like Taylor Swift and Beyonce, actually.
Oh, but some men won't say that out loud because it's very effeminate. Just like I had one of my sister's friends was dating this complete idiot, and we were all out for dinner. Okay, listen to this. We were all out for dinner. We were ordering drinks. And this was years ago, like over 10 years ago, and someone had ordered a pink drink. And I think the waiter said, oh, do you want one of those? And he said no, because it's pink.
Oh my God.
And this woman ended up marrying him. And I'm just like, Jesus.
Oh my God. Oh, have you heard about the phenomenon of women breaking up with their boyfriends who will refuse to go see Barbie?
Yes, I've heard about that, and how it's saving relationships.
Yeah. Or ending them, saving women from bad relationships.
Yeah, saving women from bad relationships. But I think this film has actually given women the boost and the confidence to say, yeah, these are
You
all the things
suck.
I've been thinking about all these
Yeah.
years that I've never had the strength to vocalize.
Yeah, or never been able to vocalize it. Maybe it's been like in the corner of your mind, the back of your mind, and now it's presented to you in like an understandable form.
Mainstream.
Like,
Yeah.
these are the ideas that I have been harboring. Like America Ferrera's speech about women are always too much for anything. Like you can never be perfect. You're too independent. You're too dependent. You're too fat. You're too thin. You're
Yeah,
too
you're too smart.
hardworking.
Don't be too smart. Don't be too
Yeah,
pretty
don't be too
to attract
smart.
male attention. Don't be too
Yeah,
to make women jealous, but be pretty. It's just like you
yeah,
can't win, and the whole message about independence. I was watching, I'm a huge fan of Sex in the City. Of course, I'm
yeah,
watching And Just Like That. And there was
yeah,
a line this week from Charlotte to her husband to say she's like now gone back to work because the whole time she's had two kids, she has put everything she wanted. And a lot of women do this. They put what they want off to the side, buried in some suitcase in a closet far away. And
yeah.
they spend their lives catering to their husbands and children, and what they want doesn't matter. So finally, Charlotte has taken that back and said, nope, I'm an excellent art dealer. I'm an excellent, worker. I want to go back and have a career. So she does that. And then the husband has to start doing things in the house and he's panicking and freaking out. And she has this really great line in the last episode, that the season finale, where she says, I'm not asking you to do everything. I'm asking you to continue doing a bit more. I have been doing everything. You've been
Yeah.
doing a portion of it and you're failing at it. And I need you to step up. I
Yeah.
just don't have the capacity to deal with that. Like, first of
Me
all,
neither.
great, I'm not going to get married to a man or have a boyfriend, but it's just like, I could not deal with these gender segregation and rules.
No, I know. Absolutely. And yeah, that's a big point of contention, the division of emotional labor. I do not understand why grown men cannot take care of their own children and their household. Like, how can you not know that you need to buy toilet paper?
You
Why is
brought
that my
this up
job?
in one of our Borgen podcast episodes, where
Yes,
you
I did.
said in the pandemic, because you're also a teacher, so you had to work remotely and teach, which was a hellhole for you.
Yes.
So you were talking about how you noticed that it's women that are giving their jobs up because they have to take care of the home. Why?
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Why indeed? And I believe I've also talked about the women are never enough. It's never just right. It's always too much, too little, too aggressive, to this, to that.
Exactly, America Ferrera's
Yeah.
speech. Yeah.
I have made that speech before. And
I think every woman has made that speech in life. You don't have to be married. You're just as a woman existing.
Yeah, I'm not married. Yeah.
Right. We make those speeches in our head all the time. Like, it's exhausting. And finally, in a very simple way, Greta Gerwig took this, like I said, this iconic doll, and very simply just turned everything upside down and disrupted it. And people are getting some men are getting all twisted about it.
Yeah. To be fair, some women are getting all twisted about it too, but they're much quieter. There's a lot fewer of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just something that I just find like ridiculous and incomprehensible,
Absolutely.
And okay, World Cup. Let's talk about the World Cup.
Okay.
So I've also been following that. I'm a soccer player. I'm a soccer fan.
Yeah.
I think have you seen that French ad where they made women players AI men and then revealed that they were women players and they're like playing top-notch soccer? It's really good. I have seen men say women's soccer is boring. That's just a fact. The women's game isn't as good as the men's game. That's just a fact, et cetera, like trying to diminish the accomplishment and players of these women. Well, first of all, I'd like to see them go play against women. I'd like to see them get off their couch in their mom's basement and do anything athletic.
Yeah.
That's another story. But, if women's sport isn't as high a quality as men's sport, perhaps it's because women's sport isn't funded, financed, and recruited for from forever. Like kids who want to be pro footballers and like soccer players, I use the European term, I'm in Europe. When I say soccer, people make fun of me here.
Yeah.
So there is a boy in our school who is going pro. Okay. He is going to end up playing in a high level professional team here.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he's never at school. So I hope he doesn't get injured. But anyway, that's what he's doing. And it takes a lot of training and a lot of effort. And that kid has been doing this since he was in primary school. So the facilities, the financing, the funding, the training, the attention, the recruiting, the coaching resources, all of this effort, money, and time is put on male sports.
Yeah.
A fraction of that goes to women. A fraction.
Yeah. And actually this week, so I'm in Toronto, as everyone knows, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the NHL team here. This week, they announced that one of their players, I was so disgusted when I read this, is signed a contract for $54 million. And I was just like, $54 million. How about if people really want equality, what about taking some of that money as a man who wants to do good in the world for women? Let's say there's a man in sports that makes a obscene amount of money that wants to do that. Take some of that money and fund women's hockey or soccer or whatever sport. Don't make it become only in a certain income bracket can you afford to send your kids to sports. Only in a certain neighborhood can you send your kids to sports. There are so many valuable lessons and life learning when it comes to playing sports, working as a team, working as a goal, training hard, sacrificing. Why is the money always spent with men? But you know what it comes down to? It comes down to advertisers and money. They want more money.
It's capitalism.
It's capitalism. And if they say, well, we're going to take this amount of money and spend it on girls. Oh, no, that's like a lost cause. We're not funding you in again.
Yeah, there'll be no audience for that. Meanwhile,
and I said, as I said, my friend in Australia, the World Cup was in Australia and New Zealand. She went to 2 games. She said it was like the most exhilarating thing she's ever seen. And I said, I am so glad you went because that is a life moment.
Yeah. And high level football
is fantastic.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And like the Australian team got so much attention. Spain did excellently. England did excellently. The US team, I really admire the captains of the US team, actually. I think those women, I mean, there are traditional rivals in sports world, right? But I have nothing but like respect and admiration for them. They just did a phenomenal job and they fought really hard for equal pay. And they deserve to have that. I don't see, and I don't see why they shouldn't be given equal pay and attention. It's like it's worth it to me. And they're bringing in revenue. They're packing stadiums. There's no reason why this game can't be promoted.
Exactly.
Turkish women's volleyball team won the championship here in Europe, I think, recently. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty impressive. Those women are so tall. There's some volleyball players in our school, pro volleyball players. They're all like 6 feet tall. I feel like I can't tell them to do their homework on time because they're just going to dominate me. But anyway, like when men come and say things like,
they're threatened.
Yeah, they're just like,
person says that.
And I don't understand how they can say women's football is boring. That's a fact. That's not a fact, dude. That's your weak ass opinion.
It is. But if you love the sport.
Yeah. If you love good soccer, go watch it.
Gender. I always say this. I said it to some friends before. Maybe I said it to the Australian friend of mine, my soul sister. Men like themselves. They want to impress other men all the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're so worried about what other men think of them.
It's like, oh, I have to buy this because it'll impress the dudes, or I have to try and land this girl because according to other people, she's quote unquote pretty. I have to look good, It's just, it's disgusting. And then the kiss. You want to talk about the kiss?
Yeah. So the head of the Spanish Football Federation grabbed Jenny Hermoso, team captain, and kissed her on the mouth. And she's not happy about this, of course. And the Spanish football team is threatening to go on strike and not play again for the nation until he is removed from his post. The Spanish Football Federation wants to remove him. And now he's actually, the most recent thing I read today was that he's threatening to sue her for defamation. And I'm like, dude, would he have grabbed Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi and kissed them on the mouth? I don't think so.
Of course not. And I read something today where he said, repeatedly shouted, "I will not resign," during a Spanish FA meeting. He called the kiss mutual, quote unquote, mutual and consensual.
No.
And quote unquote, more a peck than a kiss. And then that Hermoso instigated the kiss when he's like so much taller than her. What's she supposed to do? Jump up?
And he grabbed her head.
By the head, right? Yeah.
He grabbed her head. How is that her initiating anything at all?
No, I think
she should have given him a header.
She should have given him a header and knocked his ass to the ground. But again, I will say, and hashtag not all men, I'll keep saying.
No, but that man.
And men like him, it's an abuse of power. You know, she's the one that should be shining right now, but he is the one that wants to, you know, put his stamp, so to speak, and kiss her on the lips. You don't go around kissing people on the lips.
Yeah, that's not okay.
But even let's pretend, you know, I mean, if someone was having a personal relationship, you shouldn't even be doing that in front of the camera. I mean, I don't know. It's different if you're winning and you kiss your partner, but if you're having a secret affair.
Yeah, that's not happening either, right?
She complained about it, and she should complain about it, and they should all go on strike.
Yeah, and he needs to go. He just needs to go.
But again, many times men get propped up and protected for bad behavior.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time.
Do you see women going around just abusing their power and kissing men all over the place and groping men?
No, I mean, it does happen. Sure, it happens.
It does happen, but not to the level of.
Not to that extent, and certainly not that publicly. And there is, you know, in Mediterranean cultures, Turkey's one of them, like a kiss, cheek kissing is a normal greeting, like for men, women, friends. Even in our graduation, the principal double kisses all the students on the cheek here, which in Canada would be really weird, but in Turkey it's a respectful thing. Yeah,
it's just like me. Like when I meet my French friends, I had a gang of French friends when I lived in New York. You all double kiss on the cheek, and that's fine. But my friends here, we don't double kiss on the cheek or kiss on the cheek. It's just the culture, I guess. But you know,
that was wrong. Yeah, and what he did was not that anyway. He grabbed her head and kissed her on the mouth, and that is not acceptable. That is not acceptable.
It's a power play. Yeah. I'm the man. Yeah, you're getting attention, but I'm the man. I'm going to take charge, and I'm going to kiss you.
Yeah, and I'm going to remind you that you're a powerless girl.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's again relating to Barbie. Like when the traditional script is disrupted, and when a man tells you he likes you, you should drop your friends and go with him because he's ready.
Yeah,
Yeah.
One of my very close friends here, one of my colleagues, and close friend, said the scene in Barbie that affected her the most is when Barbie and Ken are on Venice Beach. And they're rollerblading around, and she, you know, he's like, everybody's like, dude. And, you know, kind of like giving Ken a thumbs up kind of thing. And she feels threatened. You know, he's like, I feel great. Like I'm getting so much positive attention. I feel like everybody's looking at me and it's awesome. And she's like, I feel like everybody's looking at me and it's kind of scary and violent.
Yeah.
And my friend was like, that's the line that got me, because she said, because that's what I worry about every time I go out in public.
Yeah.
And men don't have to think about that.
But
it's not a concern of theirs.
I have said this on the show, faithful listeners of our podcast. Hello. Thank you for being here. New people, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We will go back to Borgen in another episode. But
and this is a very ranty episode for us. But like, I don't care.
I have said this before. Well, this is our show. We work for
Yeah.
ourselves. We're the bosses, Amy. But I have said this. I have said every woman, it's in our DNA to look over our shoulder because
Oh,
there is
yeah.
so much violence against women. And as I told you, you've been to my place several times. To get to my place, there's a couple streets to walk in from the main road. I am constantly looking over my shoulder.
Yeah. And they're dark street. It's fairly dark in there too.
Constantly. Because
Yeah.
that's what we're programmed to do. And I tell my male friends this all the time. And of course, it's my gay male friends because I have no straight male friends. Funny story. So, the friend that I always take funny photos with, the guy that you met.
Yeah.
Okay. So that guy, him and I are like, we always do these comedic photos and we post it on social media and everyone loves it and gets a kick out of our friendship. So one of my straight girls says to me, she goes, "Oh, we love your photos with him." And then one of them says, "Is he straight?" And I said, "No, he's gay." And she said, "Oh, I thought so." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because no straight man wants to be friends with a woman if he can't get in her pants." And I just thought that was so sad. And then I think up to myself, do I have straight male friends? And I don't have straight male.
Yeah. Yeah. I have both gay male friends and straight male friends. And I can say that some of my straight male friends probably do want to get in my pants. But a lot of them don't,
But then there's me, right? So I'm a gay gal, and my best friends, my closest friends, including you, Amy, are straight women.
Yeah.
I don't think that way about my straight women. And
Of course not.
I don't make, and you stayed in my place. Like I never make,
it would never occur to me that that was a thing.
but it would never occur to me to think like that either. Like there's no ulterior motive in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah,
of course not.
Comment. I just thought about, oh, of course he's not straight because no straight man wants to be just right. I just thought that's so sad.
Yeah, it's not entirely true. I mean, like am
It's
friends
not
with
entirely true. I know
Yeah.
that. You've got great brother straight friends.
Yeah, who never try anything with me because they
Yeah.
know I would probably punch them in the face.
But that's just not the way it is, right?
Yeah, it's not the way it is. Yeah, that's not the expectation, and they respect that.
Of course. So do you want to move on to what we want to talk about next? So we talked about Barbie, Taylor Swift, soccer, Beyonce.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'll talk about Sinead O'Connor in a second.
Oh, yes.
Like, a little bit more on. So I made a comment. I commented about like there was like a little meme about like a woman pretending to make fun of golf or something. Like, I don't like golf. I don't see why golf should exist. It's so boring. So I'm just going to go online and make fun of it. Men's golf. And it was like a little like trying to point out that this is what men do to women's sports, and she's at the end, she's like, this is what happens in women's sports constantly, was the end of the line. And I actually made a comment, which I usually don't bother doing, but I made a comment one time and I was like, this is actually what happens just for women online. Posts about women's accomplishments, about the Barbie movie, Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Women's World Cup. So football, women's health issues, women's political issues, women's work, women doing anything at all.
Mhm.
Doesn't really matter how, what the content is. At some point, some guy is going to come on there and say something dismissive, rude, negative, sexist, offensive, or provocative, like trying to like be edgy and like be pushy and be rude. And some guy got into an argument with me about this. He's like, well, that's a false statement. And I'm like, you just did it. Like, you just came and did it. So it's just proving everything right. And the whole comment section was full of idiot comments about like, women's soccer is just terrible. It's just not good. That's a fact. And it's like all of these things, he just proved me right the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a frustrating conversation. And like, dudes, if you think that if you are a straight dude and you want to be with women in a relationship, don't act like that. It's not attractive. It's not attractive if you do it anonymously. And if you do it anonymously, it's going to come out at some point that that's what you really think and how you really feel about women. And that's going to be a problem. And I have seen men say like, no women want to date me. nobody wants to date me. What's wrong with women today? And I'm like, what's wrong with women today is men are stupid.
Hashtag not all men.
Yeah, hashtag not all men. But like men who have attitudes like that, we can tell that you don't like women. So we don't want to hang around with you.
No,
It's not that hard to figure out.
Yes. And it's also what I said. We can tell that you care about impressing other men more.
Yeah. So go
Right?
hang out with men. That's
Because
kind of
how
gay.
many men would say, "Oh, I can't take you. I have to clean the house because
Yeah.
my wife's friends are coming over tonight."
Yeah.
Or I have to wake up early because my wife had she's away on a conference and she just got back and she's jet lagged. I have to wake up and, do the childcare duty and drop the kids to school. I can't hang out with you tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
How many men are proud to say that, right? And again, hashtag not all men.
Some. Yeah, some actually are. There's kind of a new parenting movement where dudes actually step up. It's quite phenomenal.
And like I said, I'm not in a situation with a man, blah, blah, blah. I'm watching around. And I just think to myself, if couples are complaining about lack of intimacy in a straight relationship, what is the man doing to make the woman impressed? A woman, think about it. Does a woman want to be intimate with a man who is ungrateful and sits on the couch doing nothing and expecting the child? How is that hot and sexy? I can't wait to jump your boat.
It's not hot. It's not hot.
It's not hot. So don't complain about intimacy when you can't even do the bare minimum and meet your wife halfway and do what you signed up to do, which was to be in a partnership and have kids.
Yeah. And or even just in a partnership without any kids. Like
exactly. But if you want to be intimate, don't you think you should do something to make the woman happy, which is to not stare at a sink full of dishes until she comes home?
Yeah. Like you're a grown ass adult. Like do your job. Yeah. Do your part. You live in a house. If you lived alone, you'd have to clean it. If somebody else isn't there to clean it, just clean it.
But
just
then it's the gender roles that have been so deeply entrenched until we see again the brilliance of Barbie. It just blows all of that up.
Yeah, like when they go to, she's like, "Oh, we can get some help from these construction workers," and she's like, "Why are they all men?" It was so great.
No,
and then they say gross things to her.
When she goes to, I think it was, I don't know where she was, but she was looking around and some man was telling her something. And these are things that men hate. Hashtag not all men. She's looking around, a man is telling her some instruction. And she's like, "Oh, but where's the woman? Where's the woman in charge? Where's the woman boss? Where's the woman?"
Yeah.
And he just like, men don't expect to hear that. And then there was a scene towards the end when Ken goes to the hospital all suave and cool because now he's got the support of all the dudes around him in the real world. And he's like, "Oh, I need to speak to a doctor. I need to speak to a doctor." And the doctor is a woman. She's like, "I am a doctor." And then he sees a man walking by who's probably a nurse. And he thinks that's the doctor. And it's just like, anyway, want to talk about the show since that relates to Barbie?
Yeah. And I.
Oh, no, you want to talk about Sinead O'Connor.
Yeah. I also just said, I think dudes trying to impress other dudes is kind of gay. But obviously I mean that as a joke, right? Like, because I mean, those are the kinds of men who would be super offended if you called them gay. They'd be like all homophobic and shit. But that's really who they're trying to impress. It's like, maybe you should look inside yourself.
No, I know. Actually, it was so funny, Amy. Last night, I told you I had the girls over at my mom's house, right? So I went out to pick up pizza for them on Pape Avenue. Okay.
Yeah.
So I drove up to the pizza place, parked outside. I looked left and I looked right, and there was a cafe on the left and a bar on the right, and there was all men outside, all men.
Oh.
And I know that there are these like men that go there they're regulars there, but in my head I was laughing. I'm like, is this a gay bar? Why isn't there?
Yeah, seriously.
It's not a gay bar. It's these men that congregate to chat with other men, but they would be so offended if someone said, "Oh, is this a gay bar?" Because that's like emasculating to them.
Yeah, but I do encourage male friendships. I think like get together with your dude friends and talk about your feelings, people.
Well, I think
get together with your friends and talk about your feelings. Seriously,
you have feelings and you should be talking about it. And the other thing is your female partner is not your everything.
Yeah.
You can't be the nurse the purse, the wife, the mother, the cleaner, the cook, the chauffeur, the laundry woman.
Yep.
It's an abuse of your relationship and power in the relationship.
Yeah. And it's not very mature, actually. She's not your mom.
No.
You know,
and women should not put up with that. But anyways, who am I to say
yeah.
that?
And Sinead O'Connor. Now, I'm going to refer to her by that name because I know she changed her name when she converted to Islam, which I don't have on her proper name is Sadaka.
I don't have it.
I can't remember, and I don't have it on hand, but I'm going to refer to her by her professional recording name. So, which is Sinead O'Connor. So when she died this summer, you know, I mean, I know she lost her son in 2022 and her 17-year-old son to suicide. So that must have been devastating. She just published a memoir, which is brilliant and funny and very insightful. And people spent so much time vilifying her for her, you know, outspokenness, her brazenness. She stayed so true to herself throughout her life. Like, when she performed at the 1989 Grammys with the Public Enemy logo painted onto the side of her hair, okay, she did that in solidarity with them because rap and hip hop weren't recognized as proper musical forms or recognized categories at the Grammys. So she did that as an act of protest. She was super anti-racist, super anti-homophobic, and people could just constantly point out like, oh, she's so problematic. She's so outspoken. She's so weird. She's so this, she's so that. And it's like, she maintained herself throughout all of that nonsense and criticism and horrendous treatment by people, especially, of course, after the Saturday Night Live thing, where then Sinatra threatened to kick her ass and Joe Pesci said he would have smacked her in the face. And it's like, that's not okay. It's so disgusting. I don't know if like that's actually a thing. Like those jokes get written by other people for presenters on SNL.
No,
but
I think the Joe Pesci one was true. I actually think there was a clip of him
that's messed up.
that said, I don't know if he said what you just said in that clip that I saw, but it was something like just totally dismissing her.
Yeah, it's just not right.
Nonsense what she did to rip up the picture of the Pope.
And look what happens. Who was right in the end?
But she was 10 years ahead of everyone else. She knew
at least
what was going on. At least she and she spoke out against it, and no one wanted to hear it.
Yeah, and a lot of people knew what was going on. You know who? And she talked about Catholic Church abuses in relation to colonialism in an interview clip that I saw, and I was like, there it is. That's the Canadian tie-in.
Yep.
Because you know who knew about Catholic Church abuse when they were growing up? People like my mom, who got beaten up by nuns in their Catholic schools. And, you know, Native kids, Indigenous kids, First Nation students who never came back from residential schools.
Yeah.
They knew. Their families knew.
Yep. And who kept the secrets? Who kept the secrets and who covered for each other?
Yeah, exactly. The church, the priests and nuns covered it up.
So her name, Amy, I pulled it up, is Shuhada Sadakat.
Yeah, Shuhada Sadakat. Yeah.
I apologize if I've butchered that name. That's how I interpret it, and I might be wrong in that. And
that sounds correct to me.
The other thing she did very early in her career, she decided to shave her head, which of course a lot of people don't like because women are there to be sexualized and looked at and for men to admire them. And what are you doing shaving your head?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, she did it.
She wanted to be taken seriously as an artist, not don't like me because I'm pretty and I've got luscious hair.
Yeah. I mean, it did not affect how hot she was.
She was still very hot.
She's so beautiful, that woman. Oh my God. Yeah. Her face, her luminous face in that video, like her voice.
Eyes, how could you not be seduced by her? She's just so fascinating. And I will tell you, Amy, I don't know if you remember this because you weren't living here at the time. In 2014, I actually went to her concert at Massey Hall.
I think I remember that now. You told me about that
on Facebook, but at Massey Hall. Massey Hall, for those of you that don't know, in Toronto, it's in downtown Toronto. It is the most beautiful hall.
Yeah.
fantastic acoustics. It's got a lot of history. They just recently restored it, but I think it was around since the 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. Belonged to the very affluent Massey family in Toronto at the time.
Yeah.
And I saw her there, and I thought to myself, I have to see her.
Oh,
I have never
seriously.
seen her anywhere else, and it was fantastic. And you know what? It was days before she performed, there was a terrible shooting in Ottawa, the
Yes.
nation's capital, of a soldier who was, I think, near the statue of the fallen soldier. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Anyways,
Yes.
somebody shot him and killed him. And she days later came to perform and did a special dedication to him.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Of course she did.
and she had heart, and yeah.
Her
Oh,
albums
yeah.
after those first two albums, The Lion and the Cobra and I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got, which were her big hit albums in North America, are so interesting and so good. They are so good. She was so good. That voice, I can't even with her voice.
I know.
And I like it, like, I'm not always super upset when famous people die. Like David Bowie kind of affected me because I really think he's a great artist. Leonard Cohen, because he's like a great Canadian poet and artist, and like, a pillar of the Canadian literary and music world.
Whitney
A few,
Houston
but
really affected
Whitney,
me,
yeah,
especially since there's that history to her about having to hide a same-sex relationship that she
yes,
had. She
yeah,
couldn't be herself, and her mother coming on Oprah very publicly, Oprah had asked her if Whitney had come out as gay, would you accept her? And she said no.
that's horrible.
No, imagine being, I think, the most beautiful woman. Whitney Houston is absolutely stunning, and her voice and her presence, you've got it all: career, money, power, career, like a strong musical career. And to not have your mother's support,
Yeah,
you might as well throw it all in the trash, right?
yeah,
And Tina Turner really affected me. I thought about her
yes,
for weeks
yeah,
and listened to her music because she was such a powerhouse. I mean, this episode is about the women of 2023, but let's go back and talk about Tina Turner very briefly, to say she reinvented herself at 40 after escaping a
yes,
very abusive relationship at
yes,
40. Okay.
yes.
I'm 44. So imagine reinventing myself 4 years into reinvention, dominating world stages everywhere, and not on the arm of an abuser. She got rid of him.
Yeah, she got rid of him. Yeah, that was
so stunning. I mean,
yep.
every woman can look up to her. And there was a quote. She said, a woman had come up to her and said, when I watch you, I feel like I can do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I felt watching Sinead, sing and stuff. And like, her mother was abusive to her. She grew up in a very abusive household. She had no parental support for most of her life. It's no wonder that she had issues, like struggled with mental health issues and depression and stuff. And, people just wrote her off as like this, like cheap, rebellious punk. And that's not it.
No, it's not it at all. And I'm a big fan of the band Garbage.
Yeah.
And Shirley Manson, who's the front woman of that
Yep.
band, she had written on her Instagram that something along the lines of, this disgusting world broke her and continued to break her.
Yeah. Yeah. In many ways, yes, that's exactly true. And her biography, her autobiography, is really worth reading, as is a book called Why Sinead O'Connor Matters. The author's name I can't remember. It's Allison something.
Okay.
I can look it up and add it to the show notes later. Alison McCabe, I think. And she was on You're Wrong About and talked about that book as well. And I read both of those books this summer. They were on my radar to begin with. And then
yes, you're right. It's Allison McCabe. So ALLYSONMCCABE, Allison McCabe.
Yeah.
You're right.
And shout out to Sarah Marshall and Chelsea Weber Smith for providing information for me for this podcast, and like through their own podcasts. They're so fantastic. It was just so, Yeah, it's been a lot this summer. And like the Barbie movie really affected my psychology. Like my standards raised
Yeah, good,
after watching that.
good.
And now do you want to talk about our little
Yeah,
our
so
little
we're gonna
PM?
we're gonna round out this episode. This is the
Getting
thank you for
back to
bearing with us,
politics.
audience. This is the first time we've ever gone off script and not talked about Borgen, but hope you're enjoying it so far. So I'm gonna round out the episode by talking about our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. There's two stories on him. So the first story was so I think I'll talk about, I don't know the order they came in, but they all happened in August of 2023. So he took his eldest son to see the movie Barbie and posted a picture. Trudeau was wearing a pink hoodie and the eldest son was wearing a fitted pink t-shirt. So that, of course, again, opened up the floodgates for all these disgusting trolls to spew all this nonsense, which really upset me because, no prime minister is going to be perfect. Okay, Trudeau does have faults. I will say Trudeau does have faults, but I will always stand up for him to say that he is always pro-feminist. He's pro-choice. He's pro-LGBTQ. You have been here, Amy, and we've seen him march in the parade. He's marched in almost every single parade since he's been prime minister, which has been going on to like 8 years now, I think.
Yeah, he's done 2 terms.
Yeah, 2 terms. So he's always on the right side of history in terms of those human rights.
Yes.
But the blatant homophobia, the right-wing hatred is also strong in Canada. So people that look to Canada as being the nice, polite place, it is a nice, polite place, but there's also a lot of this gross energy here.
Yeah, it leaks over the border, frankly.
It leaks over the border. Yeah, it does leak over the border indeed. And the following week, he just, I think he said in his tweet, rounding it out by taking my daughter to see Oppenheimer. And he posted about that, which of course did not get, I don't think that got us any, I mean, I'm sure.
Of course not. Because watching Oppenheimer won't make her gay, but watching Barbie will make his son gay.
Yeah,
according to these idiots.
Absolutely.
I don't know how that works. That logic is so completely wrong. Like, so wait, if you take your son to see Barbie, he'll be gay, but if you take your daughter to see Oppenheimer, she'll be a scientist. How does that work?
Yeah,
that's a lot. That like it makes no sense.
Yeah, but some of the troll comments I remember, I didn't like copy them because I don't want to see that. Of
course not.
In my head, it was things like, how could this PM be trusted, or
those are not the issues that he should be untrustworthy on. There are a lot of other ones he could be untrustworthy on, but that is not one of them.
Or this is embarrassing to have a prime minister who's so open about seeing this terrible film, and it was awful. God. So the second story is about, it happened on a Wednesday, August 2nd. And I say Wednesday because later when I was reading articles and interviews about this story, they were saying, it's very unusual for big news to come out on a Wednesday. So yeah, so it was August 2nd, him and his wife, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, they each announced on identical Instagram posts, quote, after many meaningful and difficult conversations, Trudeau and his wife, or Sophie and I, or Justin and I, have decided to separate after 20 years together, 18 of which we spent married, and, talking about respecting the privacy of the kids and the family and stuff like that. So
it is because of Barbie.
Oh, it's probably because of Barbie, which is not true.
He's not enough.
So, so for anyone that doesn't know, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, Justin's wife, she is a longtime dedicated advocate for women's rights, including the spokesperson for Planned Canada's Because I'm a Girl initiative and various charities for nature, eating disorders, and mental health. She actually does really good work. And I like her, and I follow her on Instagram, and I follow all of her initiatives about mental health and positivity. And I think she's a great role model to be the PM's wife. And as we were saying earlier on, being the PM's wife does have responsibilities. And this year, I mean, many things happened with the Queen's funeral, which was almost a year ago, but then the coronation of Prince Charles, she was there. And it doesn't matter if you're separating or not, you still perform your duty and
Yeah.
be loyal to that. And as we were saying that, you know, Justin Trudeau is the son of former Prime Minister in Canada, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. And Justin and Sophie met in university. And just a side comment to say, at least one Borgen fan of the show and fan of our podcast with the initials KB, who is in Copenhagen and writes to us all the time, has said that they have a crush on our PM. So
a lot of people do.
I'm happy to have said something about Trudeau in this episode.
He has affected the Turkish ladies, I have to say. There's a lot of my friends who are like, your PM
is very,
he's all right.
Very attractive.
I mean,
yeah, I know. I mean, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even straight.
He's young.
I think he's handsome and attractive, but also he's so gentlemanly when you see him in interviews and conducting.
Yeah. He does conduct himself very well in public. I mean, I have some issues with his policies and stuff, and like there's been a lot of scandals in the Liberal government, but like, you know,
overall,
him as a person,
representative, I think, to most people in Canada, and I've said this as well. I don't agree with everything that he does and his decisions on everything, but I think there could be worse. And I'm not going to say, of course there could be worse is, but just think of the color orange. Thank God we don't have that piece of crap in our country as the you know. Yeah, and orange is not related to our NDP party in Canada, by the way. Exactly. The other orange, the Southern orange. So I will say one thing, and I think, Amy, we talked a lot, and if there's anything else we've missed, say it, but I think that... I think we're good. I want to say one thing. So as a Canadian, as I said, I'm in Toronto. I got this news on my phone on Apple News, and I was absolutely shocked. And my reaction, I want to share with people my gut reaction, because this will relate to Brigitte and Borgen, when Brigitte has to come out with this news that she and Philip are breaking up. This has happened to our prime minister here in Canada, where him and his wife are separating. Will they get divorced? Probably. But my reaction as a citizen, forget Borgen, is I sort of panicked in a way, like, oh my God, this is terrible. He's got a lot of personal problems. And I sort of worried for him, like, is he on course as the prime minister, or will these awful problems sort of distract him from doing his job, right? For a second, I panicked. And I thought, oh my God, this is maybe how audience members may feel, or in the fictional citizens of Borgen, the show, they may feel when they hear Brigitte having to separate. It's kind of like, oh my God, well, what is he going to do? And is this going to make him have some, problems that will take him away from his job? Yeah, I don't think so. Probably not. I don't think so, because, come on, you're with your partner for, what did I say? 20 years together. This doesn't come up one day during breakfast. I mean, this was a thought out decision, and it's not like ordinary citizens breaking up. This is a prime minister. It has to be vetted by lawyers and, advisors and spin doctors. I'm like, and Casper. and the real life Casper Yule of the Canadian Parliament. My cat's with me. She's wiggling all around now. Jumped up. She's saying, Amy, we've talked too much. It's time for... Yeah, we have talked a lot. Yeah, we have indeed talked a lot. I am going to take us out. We are going to take a break, audience, and we're going to come back to record another episode. So we will be releasing another episode after this one rolls. So with that, we'd like to thank our listeners for joining us on this episode. You can check us out on our website, theborgenpodcast.com, where all of our podcast episodes are archived, and you can learn more about information about us and the show. We'd like to thank our good friend Garth Jensen for providing our intro and outro music. Thank you very much, Garth. And we would like to mention that Garth has launched a YouTube channel called Garth's Pop Culture O. And lastly, don't forget to check us out on all social media platforms. We are there. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to connect with us and share what's on your mind by using the hashtag #TheBorgenPodcast, and by subscribing to our podcast so you know when new episodes are released. And don't forget to email us and send us a voice memo at theborgenpodcast@gmail.com.